with you what the Lord has shared with us, and hope it'll be a great help and encouragement to you this morning. Are you happy? You know it? Say amen.
Amen.
We're so glad to have you again. We are hoping that you're glad to be here. Psalm 64. I've got some good news for you today. We only have 2 points. Glory to God. Hallelujah. Everybody said amen, right? Yeah, well, you know you're not leaving any sooner than if I had 3. Either way, I only have 2 for you. Let's stand and let's read the Word of God together. It's a quick 10 verses. We'll read this, and we'll speak to you today on the heart of the righteous. And I hope that it'll be a help to you, as we said, and an encouragement to you throughout the day. I'm still saved. I'm still satisfied with Jesus. And I'm still on my way to heaven. Amen?
Amen.
I've had a rough week. You've had a rough week. We went through some things. Everything's gone awry. Everything's bad. Everything's good. We're still going to heaven. Amen?
Amen.
We're still saved. Praise God. 64 of Psalms saying, "Hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, for the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword," meaning they sharpen their tongue like a sword, "and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words." That's what they're doing. They're shooting the arrows, shooting the bows of bitter words at him. That they, verse 4, "that they may shoot in secret at the perfect," talking about himself, the king. He said, "Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privately. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities and they accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. But God shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. All the men shall fear and shall declare the work of God, for they shall wisely consider his doings. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord and shall trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory. All right, so there's the reading of the text today, chapter number 64. But I want to focus on verse number 10, where it speaks of our thought that's on the board behind us today. The righteous shall be glad. So I want to share with you some things about the heart of the righteous. So you pray for me as we pray here just for a few moments, and we'll do our very best to do our very best for the Lord God. All right, Father, we love you. We thank you for today. I thank you for all your continued blessings and life that we are part of today, the blessings you've given to us, even the ups and downs and the valleys, the mountaintops of the week. God, I'm grateful to know when all that dust is settled, we're still saved, we're still secured, and still settled on going to heaven. What a glorious day. Lord, I want to praise you today to know that Miss Lucy had hope in you, and that today she is with you. There is much rejoicing in heaven this very hour over her presence there in the room with you. God, I'm grateful to know she's made that settled long ago, and we're grateful to know we have a hope outside of this world. Lord, in the meantime, I pray you'd help us as we preach this passage this morning of Psalm 64 that you've shared with us. It'd be a help to your people that have gathered today. Father, I pray you'd move me out of the equation, and that they would not see me, but just simply see you and hear from you today, this morning, this hour. Lord, I pray for these that have come, that they open their hearts, minds, and souls up to receive the engrafted word of thanksgiving in that heart, mind, and soul. Lord, I pray that you'd use us just for your glory's sake, just for a few moments. Hide me behind this sacred desk, and I pray, God, you bless not just me, but every pastor, preacher, teacher, missionary, and evangelist standing today, breaking the bread of life, that somebody may come to know his Savior, and that a saint may draw closer to you. I beg and ask of these things in Jesus' mighty, wonderful name. Amen, amen. You may be seated. I'm very taken by this little small chapter here, 10 verses, and the depths of the things that we read here in chapter number 64. I'm going to share some things with you that more than likely when we read these, we kind of just glaze over them really fast, and we don't really get the contents of what David is saying. Well, I'm going to do my very best to try to explain that to you the best that I possibly can. I want you to see in verse number 1, we can see with everything David is doing and dealing with, David comes to a place where his biggest need or desire at the very moment is for God to hear him. All the things that happen to you in your life, everything going on, and sometimes you're just going through the mundane routines of life, and you're simply wondering sometimes, does God even hear you? simply wonder sometimes, are your prayers even getting through the ceiling? And you wonder sometimes, we start to do a little inventory of ourselves, we start to check up on ourselves, where we are with God, and all these wonders and things start coming to our mind. But we also understand that, we all relate to that, we all can understand what's going on, but sometimes we just simply want somebody to hear us, right?
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Sometimes you want to go have a cup of coffee with somebody, and you just want to talk for 45 minutes and let them sit there and go,
Yeah.
Right? You just want somebody to hear you. You want to be heard. Am I right about that?
Amen.
That just sometimes you want to, we might use it in the terms today, we just want to vent a little bit and just get it all out real quick and in a hurry, right? All right. Well, that's where we find David to be. And sometimes, as we said, we just want to be heard. And I'm a realist to say that David had called on God, I think, several times, several days, and has heard nothing in return. We come to this writing here in chapter 64, we find him pouring out his heart before God in a sense that almost like he's saying these words right here. Let me give it to you like this. I'm thinking in the terms of like an emergency. You're taking a moment and you're trying to get in touch with somebody. I didn't know we were going to use this for an example, but I will use it now since Miss Becky brought it up to us. We'll use it. I'm always out on the front stoop and I'm waiting for people to come in, and we're kind of looking up and down the drive to try to see if some people are coming. And as we were doing so, I noticed around the corner of the building over here, somebody poked their head out around the corner. Well, it was our little guy, Antonio. He's pacing the yard and wondering where in the world Mom and Dad are. Why are they not here yet? Sunday school's long over, and he's kind of stressing out. So no sooner did I see him, I felt the phone vibrate in my pocket, and it was a message from Becky letting me know, will you please tell Antonio that everything's going to be all right. We're just running a minute or two behind. We'll be right there. So he poked his head around the corner. I said, hey, I just had gotten a message from your mama and said everything's going to be all right. She'll be here in just a minute. And his little eyes of worry went from, oh, okay, just calm down. I said, why don't you come on inside and just wait for her on the inside? He said, okay, so we come in. So I simply believe it like this, in a means of emergency. This is where we find David. Things are going bad, things are not going too good, and the first person he calls, this is what you and I go through when we make that call. We go like this, please pick up, please pick up, please pick up, please pick up, somebody pick up, please pick up the phone, please pick up. That one don't work. Please pick up. Please pick up. Right? And the next one, that don't work. We're calling somebody else. And finally, we get down, oh, thank God somebody's picked up the phone. Right?
Right.
That's how we feel. That's how life oppresses us at times. And we feel so overrun by these things that we get just like David. Please pick up the phone. Please pick up. Please, please, please pick up the phone. I know maybe I'm the only one. Anybody ever felt like that in your life and had to go through that? Yeah. If we can apply that how we live in our lives today, how urgent we need to get in touch with somebody here today, how much can we just imagine how we are doing things spiritually to feel the same way? Sometimes we just need God to hear us, and we just simply look up to heaven. Will you please pick up the phone? Will you please pick up the phone? You know he's got caller ID. You know he sees who's calling. You know that he sees that it's you, and maybe that's why he's not answering. I don't know, but sometimes we wonder, God, would you just please pick up the phone? And this is where we find David at this very moment. He's just simply saying in verse 1, hear my voice. Is he simply saying to God, Lord, I'm struggling with things, I got this going on, I got this. No, he just said, Lord, I want you to hear my voice. And I said it, sometimes we just want to go have coffee with somebody, and we just want to vent it all out and just get it off our chest, and that's where David finds himself. And then he says, Lord, in my prayer, preserve my life from the fear of the enemy. He's being overrun. They're still out to get him. He's still running from his son and others that are out to kill him. And he understands that in all that he wants to do, he can find a good hiding place. He can go into a cave. He can climb a tree. But after all that is settled, the thing he needs most is to hear from God. Amen?
Right.
And I'm glad when all that's settled in our life and the dust storm is over, we can still hear from heaven. Amen?
Amen.
So in this world we live in, the noise and distractions are on every hand. And just like David, we need to hear the voice of God speaking clear to us. It's some of the worst things in the world when you're going through something and you call this preacher and you get him on the phone and you're looking for just, I've got a question, I'm going through this, I'm struggling with this, and I need an answer. And the preacher says, you need to go read the book of so-and-so in chapter number 5. And I know on the other side you're looking at the phone going, I didn't call called you to get a chapter and a verse. I've called you to get an answer. Well, the answer is the chapter and the verse. But we want that readily answer to come ringing through our ears so we can just hang up the phone and say, man, that's what I needed, or that's what I needed to hear, or whatever the case is, and that's how I'm going to address the scenario, the situation, whatever it is. And we just want sometimes the voice of God to speak louder than all the noise and the distractions that are going on in this world. That's where we find it.
Right.
Here's also what I see in David. It's because this world shouts so loud, sometimes we can't hear God, right? You hear more things like this. You're never going to amount to nothing. You hear things, you'll hear more like, you're not enough to make anybody happy. You're a loser. You're worthless. And on that line goes. And that's when I believe it happens like this. When all that is coming in, when David is oppressed, you're oppressed, and everything's encroaching around you, you're just feeling overrun by it all. I believe that's when God comes on the scene, the very most and the deepest time you need Him. And here's what He does. He pulls you very close to Him, and He speaks very softly.
Amen. Amen.
Well, yeah, amen, right. I agree with all that. But God, the voice of the world is screaming so loud, I'd love for you to outspeak them. Well, He can do that. But some of the greatest times you're ever going to have is when you're extremely close to God.
Right.
And I believe He whispers to you. I wrote down these things right here. I said to you that the world is saying that you're not enough, that you'll never make it, you're a loser, you're worthless, and on and this goes. But I believe when God comes on the scene and pulls us in close, He says, you may not be enough, but He whispers to you, I'm enough.
Right.
When they say, you'll never make it, He'll say, you can do all things through me.
Right.
He whispers those things to you. And when they say you're a loser, He said, I've never abandoned you.
Right.
He says, when they said you're worthless, He said, I'll never leave you. He said, when they do all these other things, and He'll tell you at the end of all that, He'll confirm you and say, you can make it.
Right.
But He speaks softly to you. We're looking for a big, resounding voice to come over and just overcast everybody who's speaking negative to us. But in the stillness of it all, I believe God has just pulled David close enough to where David can hear God's voice alone. Sometimes in your life, I'm going to tell you, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to gather around you, a lot of opinions that are going to come in, a lot of voices that are going to usher into your life, and they're going to speak things to you that are not biblical. Some will speak things to you that are biblical, but at the end of the day, if you can separate yourself from them and just get alone with God, I believe He'll speak so softly and so sound to you, you'll go to bed, you'll pillow your head at night, and you'll rest like the baby that you think you are. Amen?
Right. Right. Yeah. Amen.
All right. Come to understand here that an enemy of God, or an enemy of we come to understand in this situation, as we relate to David in this story, that our enemy is also God's enemy. Think about that. How many of you would defend your children?
Well.
I don't have any children. We went down in December to North Carolina for that wedding for our friends from Wales. And I never met this young man before, Daniel. He was marrying Darren and Joanne's daughter. And I looked right at him and I said, before I leave here, I said, I'm going to have a talk with you. I didn't know this. I stepped out to take a phone call, and while I was outside, Darren had made a little speech. And in that speech, my name was mentioned. He said, being someone who lives in Wales, and is not legally being able to carry a gun, he said, I know that Jerry can, and Jerry will get here when he needs to get here. I didn't know any of that until after the fact, meaning that I would defend his daughter.
Right.
But I had already told that boy, I said, before I leave here, me and you are going to have a talk. He said, all right, no problem. So just before we got to leaving, we went over across the street to the house, and I said, Daniel, I said, you don't know me, and I don't know you. I said, but one thing I do know, I know that girl right there, Hannah, and I love her like my own daughter. And I said, I will tell you this, it's a 9-hour drive for me to get here. I said, if you hurt her in any way, shape, or form, I will come down here and give you a blanket party. And he looked at me. If you're not from Chicago, you don't know what a blanket party is. That's when we throw a blanket over your head and start hitting you.
Right.
So you don't know who's hitting you and where it's coming from. That's a blanket party. And he just looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, yeah, I'm crazy. I'm crazy for that little one right there. I said, I love her like she's my own, and I'll defend her that way. I'm telling you, when you have an enemy, that's also God's enemy.
Right.
I'm telling you that if I'm willing to defend her, and she's not even my own, how much more is God willing to defend David? How much more is He willing to defend you?
Right.
When you have an enemy, God has an enemy. So let's look at a little deeper here in this little context. We find ourselves realizing that our enemy is around us. In this chapter here, they're whetting their tongues like a sword. They're sharpening them. You know what they're doing? They're gathering information. One of the things I've realized as pastor, that a lot of things you tell me, I end up using in the pulpit. Right?
Right.
And then some of you think, next time I'm around pastor, I'm not talking about something.
Right.
Because when you're talking about it, and when I'm done, I'm sharpening my tongue up because I'm going to use that somewhere down the road, right? All right, so this is where we find this happening here. But David is saying he's overrun by all the enemy that's come by him. They're not only sharpening their swords, they're bending their bows, they're getting ready to do the shooting, they're getting ready to take me out. All these things are happening. But I read in the Bible, in Exodus chapter 14 and verse 13 and 14, some of my favorite texts in the Bible. And Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will show you today. I'm glad He's able to show up when we need Him. He said, For the Egyptians whom you see this day, you shall see them again no more. Why is that? Here's the key, verse 14. For the Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Now, I've got to take all this in context, and I'm building a little bit to give you these 2 points today. I want you to see David is finding himself just like Moses, just like the children of Israel. We need to stand still sometimes and let God do all the work for us. Amen, preacher. Yep. But when we get offended, we get hurt, we get afflicted, the first thing we want to do is react in some way when God is simply saying, let me do the work. Your enemy is now my enemy, and I'll defend you the way it needs to be defended. So we find David going through all that. We find David being in the middle of all this. But all that's taking place, drop with me to verse number 10 and read what the Bible tells us together. He says, And the righteous shall be glad in the Lord. Wait a minute. Lord, they just talked bad about me. They sharpened their tongues. They told everybody in town about my situation. They've run me down the road. They've said everything negative about me. They've talked and talked and talked, and they went further. They grabbed arrows, and they're out to shoot me and kill me. God, I just don't know what to do. Here's what David said. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord. How's that possible? Because my hope is not in what they're saying. My hope is not in what they're doing. My hope is in the Lord.
Amen.
Right.
That's why the righteous can say, we shall be glad. So I want to take all that now, and I want to give you these 2 points. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
All right, you're quiet with me this morning. Here we go. Point number 1 and 2, real quick, real fast. Point number 1, I want you to see the heart of the righteous is reflected in his actions. Here's what we all want to do. Everybody in this room, no matter how old, weak, feeble, young you may be, it's all irrelevant. Somebody attacks you, and the first thing you want to do is respond. Right? I'm just being honest with you. I'm 48 years old. I'm not in the greatest shape I used to be. But if you jack this jaw, I'm going to do my best to jack your jaw. Amen?
Amen.
You slap me across the face, and I know the Bible said I need to turn the other cheek. If I do happen to do that, it's going to be a miracle. And after the fact, I'm going to slap your cheek.
Right.
I'm just being honest with you.
Amen.
You cut me off, and, well, we'll talk about that. Anyway, so we're going to respond in a certain way. We want to respond in the flesh. Every single time we want to respond in the flesh. Here's what David's telling us. It's reflected. The heart of the righteous person is reflected in his answers, or in his actions, excuse me. First thing I want you to notice is he is prayerful to God. How many of you do that? As soon as somebody comes up to you and they smack you with these words, and the first thing you do is say, God help them. I do. I just, God help them get away from me before I jack their jaw. That's what I say. God, get them away from me. Look at what David is saying. Look at me in verse number 1. He's simply saying to be prayerful. What does he do? He takes this burden and this problem. Hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. Even though everything's coming down, even though the world around me is falling, I might say, even though everything I'm playing out is not working perfectly, God, would you please hear my prayer? Notice in this sentence, or in this chapter, he never goes again and gets all of his buddies. He doesn't get a group of his friends around. He doesn't even grab his sword, or his shield, or his armament. He doesn't grab any of those people. He simply takes his problem to God.
Right.
Yeah. Preacher, you don't know what I'm going through. No, I don't. I can tell you one of the healthiest things you can do is take it to God.
Amen.
Here's the problem we do. We take it to God and say, Lord, I'm leaving this here with you. And the whole time we're away from it, we're just constantly going a little step, and we almost get out of sight of it. And then we realize that it really hasn't changed to our liking. And the first thing we do is we run back and we pick it up again, and we start carrying the load and carrying the burden again, when all you got to do is cast your cares upon Him, because He cares for you.
Right.
The problem is that this thing is so heavy. The yoke is so burdensome. It's just weighing me down so much. If I leave it with Him, He said He'll take that and give me His, which is so much easier. It all starts going in prayer. Notice what He does here. He's saying, I'm prayerful in my actions. I want to be responsible for my actions. And my action is, you're coming at me with some sharp words. You're coming at me with an arrow. I want to respond to you in the same way. Amen?
Right.
Right? Oh, don't leave me alone up here. I know you're all the same way. I know we're all the same way. We're all functioning that way. We want to respond in the flesh.
Right.
But David is saying we're getting past that. We got to respond to the needs of the hour and take it to God in prayer. I also see that he's reflected in his actions, in his prayerful life, but in his preservations. How is he? First off, to God, but he's preserved in God. You ever got to the point in your life, in spiritual life, where you wanted to respond in a certain way, but you just couldn't do it?
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how many times I wanted to respond it in the flesh, but I couldn't do it? Do you know how many times I wanted to crack somebody and I couldn't do it?
Right.
That's when the Spirit of God has checked us and held us in contempt, we might say, that we could not respond and get and inflict more problems and heartaches on ourselves. I believe what we see here in David's comments in verse number 1, he said, hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. But he also said, preserve my life from fear of the enemy. I believe what he's saying here is that he's prayerful to God, but he's also preserved or kept in God. There's some times you wanted to respond, but God just wouldn't let you. There's some times you wanted to react, but God just would not let you. I believe that God is looking out for us, not only spiritually, but fleshly, emotionally, health-wise, everything about it. And there's times that just God helps us or holds us back to where we can't respond. Here's what I wrote down next to that. God isn't asking you to figure it out why things are happening to you. He's simply asking you to trust Him that He already knows.
Right. Yep.
That's some of the hardest thing. Some of the hardest thing. It's called waiting. It's called patience. Long suffering over it. No, I got to respond. I got to react. I got to go right now, and I can't wait for God's timing. If you do, it always works out just right.
Amen.
But as soon as you put your hand to the plow and get out there and do something you're not supposed to, great is the fall. Amen.
Amen.
So I believe he's also prayerful, but he's also preserved in God. But I also see he's protected by God in verse number 2. So he's protected. Look with me in verse number 2. I want you to see this very close. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. I believe he's protected. He's saying, God, you hide me to where they can't even see me. God, you put me someplace where they can't get to me. God, you defend me in a way that only you can, and it has to be done by you, and you get the glory for this. So I believe it's like this. It kind of goes like this. From being broken to being chosen, from being pressured to being treasured, and from being rejected to being protected is what David's asking. God, I've been through the mill. I've been through it all. I'm struggling to get through it day by day. I want to react in the flesh, but if you'll hide me somewhere, if you'll put me in the corner, and if you'll protect me, and if God, I'll come to you in prayer, I know that you can keep me preserved.
Right.
Oh, yeah. God can do that. But the reality of it is, we really don't want God to do that sometimes. Oh, don't leave me alone again.
Right.
You know you want to respond right. You know you want to respond wrong. And you want to justify your actions because of what's happened to you. David's not saying that. He's saying, I can respond. I can call an army out. I can get the chariots to roll. I can get the archers out. I can do all these things. But I simply don't want to do that. I want to hide in God. And when you do that, I guarantee you the response will be just like in verse 10. I am righteous and I can be glad. Even when they're talking bad about me. Even when they're out to get me and kill me, I can still have a means of rejoicing. I was talking with somebody the other day, some individuals that were struggling with some family matters, and just simply pulled up real hard against God over some things going on in their life. And it was ugly. I mean, it's to the point I didn't know how to pray for these people anymore. I mean, I'm struggling and praying as they're calling me about situations and talking about things. I didn't know what else to do. I just simply said, Lord, I turned them over to you. I mean, I was wringing my hands. I didn't know what else. I didn't have any more Bible to give them. I didn't have any more words to share. I mean, there's 100,000 pages of stuff here to get to them. I had nothing. I said, God, they're yours. I can't help the situation. You're going to have to intervene in that. 2 or 3 days later, I get a phone call. I said, hello? I hear on the phone. I said, what's going on? What's happening? Everything all right? Yeah. I said, well, what's going on? Why all the tears? What's all the... Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. She said, you know what I've been telling you about, all the struggles I've been having, and all the anger and everything I've been going through, and fighting with the family, and all this thing. I said, yeah, I know all about it. She said, God finally spoke to my heart. I started to well up on the inside. I said, praise God. Meaning this, don't take it the wrong way. I didn't have to help her anymore. There's a greater help than Jerry's step.
Right.
His name's God.
Right. Amen.
So it meant that God broke through to her more than Jerry could. Amen?
Right.
So not only did she have to turn it over, not only did David have to turn it over, not only did all that happen, but I had to get rid of it too. Because you know what ended up happening to me? All these voices coming in, I was getting mad on her behalf for the things that were going on. I wanted to go over there, and I wanted to physically respond, and I wanted to act out. But here's what happens. If we're prayerful, if we're preserved, God will always protect us from what's going on. Amen?
Right. Amen.
I said, hey, what's going on? She said, God has broke through the hardness of my heart, and I am willing to listen and hear His voice, and everything's going to be all right.
Amen.
I ain't kidding you. I ain't kidding you. I was in Dollywood when this happened. I'm about to get on the Eagle roller coaster. I stepped off to the side. I'm in the corner, standing there in the corner of this shed, and I went, woo, glory to God. You don't know what, if you knew the backdrop of the story, you shout with me too. Amen. But I'm telling you, I said, glory to God. I'm glad that God can meet you even when you're sorry pastor 600 miles away.
Right. Amen.
I'm telling you, it's not about where we are. It's about where we're prayerful, preserved in God, and protected in God. And when you do that, you'll get to verse number 10, and you say, ooh, I'm glad I got through to heaven.
Amen.
Number 2. I don't know if this is helping anyway or not. Man, that's good stuff to me. The heart of the righteous is reflected in his actions, and it is resting in His authority. The first part is all about you. His, meaning David. What is the first part? Reflected in his actions. In David's actions. That's how we see David's response to the situation. But David is resting in his, God's, authority. Okay? You got that? You got a grasp of that? Here we go. Here's what I want you to see now. The character of the enemy is wickedness. In this chapter, 64, 10 verses, we see the character of the enemy is wickedness. The object of the enemy is simply death to David. The weapons the enemy are using are a very sharp tongue and arrow. But I also see the method of the enemy is a conspiracy against David. How do you get that? That's all from verses 3 through 9. You can read through there and get all that later. But they carry it out in a secret and sudden attack. Look with me here in the chapter. I want you to see this right here. They encourage themselves in verse 5 in an evil manner, and a commune of lame snares privately. So they carry it out in a secret manner. They go about to make this all come to fruition by just planning it out secretly. But they were and are a very persistent group of individuals. I ask you this question. Ever had anybody deal with you that way? If they ever deal with you, they've got together and they conspire with a little group, and they made a little plan and how they're going to address you and attack you and go after you. This is exactly what's happened to David. They were insensitive, just like your group is. They were insensitive of who it even might even affect. They didn't care. Let me help you with this right here. God cares.
Right.
God cares.
Amen.
He cares not only for the situation, but He cares for you. Here's what I want you to see in A, B, and C. He's resting in His authority. Number one, or letter A, is that God is our advocate. This ought to help you out, Mr. Baptist, Miss Baptist. Here's what I want you to see about that. God is our advocate. That means He's my champion, He's my backer, and He's my biggest supporter.
Right.
That's what God is. Look, notice what's happening here. Everybody's coming after David. They're using every kind of trick that they can to get a hold of him. They're trying to press him down. They're trying to kill him. They're trying to do all these things to David. They're trying to come at him in every way. But what does he say? God is my advocate, meaning He's my champion that's going to defend me. He's my backer who's going to support me. And He is my biggest supporter to let me know I'm going to get through it. Amen?
Right.
It's like somebody in a boxing match. They're in the ring, they're fighting, they're going through it. It's bludgeoned, it's batted, and you got a big wound on you. Your eyes swollen up, your ears swollen up, you got a fat lip. You look like you should be beat down, but there's somebody in the corner saying, keep on, you're the champion, you're going to make it. That's what God's doing for David. He's his biggest advocate in spite of his situation. He's still encouraging.
Right.
He's still loving you.
Amen.
And He's still supporting you in His actions. Amen?
Right.
I see the resting in His authority. That first off, God is His advocate. Secondly, I also see God as His archer. Let's look here in the text. Verse number 7. Remember a few weeks ago I shared with you how David prayed that God would knock out the teeth of his enemy?
Right.
Remember that? Here's where we find this right here. Notice I told you earlier, David doesn't call an archer. David doesn't get the horsemen. He doesn't bring the chariots. He doesn't do any of that. He goes straight to God for his need. And here's how it responds. Look at verse 7. But God. That word but means in spite of all that they were doing in those previous verses, but God shall shoot at them with arrows. That's what I want you to see. He is not only our advocate, but He's also our archer. He is good enough that He can hit any target at any distance. Amen to that?
Right.
We put limits on our ability. I'm a pretty good shot. I've got a 30-30 Marlin rifle at home. I'm a good shot at up to about 250 yards. After that, the bullets fade. The power of the trajectory of the bullet doesn't go any further. It starts to taper off, and you got to get the wind and trajectory right. All that stuff happens. But at the end of the day, I'm going to miss a few targets. Can I help you with this morning? God, or your enemy is God's enemy, and He knows exactly how, when, and where to hit them. Amen?
Right. Yep.
I see now He's my advocate, He's my archer. He's the one doing the defending. And lastly, I want you to see, God is not only His authority, His advocate, His archer, but He's also the author and finisher of His faith. He has the final say. God does, of when this journey is over. He has the final say of how we're to be dealt with. He has the final say of the pain and heartache we're all going to experience. He has the final say of this journey and all that it entails. God has the final say. In spite of our subjects that are after us, the slanderers that they may be, there's still a Savior that saves. Amen to that? Amen. How do we come to that conclusion? Look with me in verse 10. We'll quit with this right here. Verse 10, He said, the righteous shall be glad. How?
In the Lord.
In the Lord. In the Lord. That simply tells me today, church, that in spite of all David's trials at this very moment, all the struggles he's going through, God was still there.
Right.
In spite of how much the enemy had gathered around and how big they may look out in front, because sometimes your enemy seems insurmountable. You don't think you're going to get through it. You don't think you're going to make it to the other side. You just start looking around at the things right in front of you, and you can't see God in the background pulling you and encourage you to keep coming and keep coming, keep fighting, keep going through it. We can't see it, but I want you to rest assured that at all the end of the day, God's still on the throne. He knows all about you. He knows all the things you're going through, and He alone will be your salvation, because He's the author and the finisher by faith.
Right.
How's that conclude? My faith is not based on the enemy that I see, but on the Savior that I saw. And His name is Jesus, who hung on the cross for my place. I'm grateful for my Savior. That's the heart of a righteous man. He's prayerful, seeking after God. He's preserved and he's protected. He's also, we know him as what? Am I taking off the board already? No. He's my advocate, my archer, and my author.
Right.
I'm glad he's all that for me. I hope he's all that for you. Simple, easy contents, simple, easy message with tons of application. If we'll take it and apply it to our lives. As Mike and Erica come, it's up to you now. Where are you? Are you feeling that archer gathered around you? Are those words just ringing out from your enemies? Are they out there? Are they conniving to try to take you down? All the stuff that's being oppressing to you. Listen, let me just be as frank as I possibly can. It's not always people outside the church. Sometimes it's the enemy within. Amen, preacher.
Right. Yep.
And sometimes it's your family. Amen, preacher.
Right.
Sometimes it's your co-workers. Amen, preacher.
Amen.
They're all out to get you.
Right.
Greater is He that is in me than he that's in the world. I'm telling you, the heart of a righteous man can be glad in spite of the situations if you just seek God first.
Right.
As Mike sings and you sing, whatever this does.